Hi, everybody. Welcome to the presentation. I'm your host, Andy Baylor. I am a 2008 graduate of Miami University. I'm thrilled to be part of the Greater Boston chapter here as part of the Miami Alumni Association. And today we're actually welcoming some special guests from PNC Financial Services to cover a variety of topics around investment management and financial planning. If you don't know about PNC, they're actually one of the largest diversified financial institutions in the US. They have about 450 billion in assets under management. They have employees in 40 different states across the country. Basically, what started off as a Pittsburgh bank has grown into a larger bank that's in many different regional markets across the Mid-Atlantic, Midwest, and Southeast. They also have offices in 4 countries outside of the US. PNC is organized around its customer base as well as communities. And one of the goals of PNC is to build strong relationships across its retail banking sectors, including residential mortgage, corporate and institutional banking, as well as asset management. They provide these products and services nationally. Part of PNC's national expansion has led them to Boston with the recent opening of the area's first solution center in Chestnut Hill, Mass. On September 29th. This is one of the first of many solution centers planned for Boston as PNC works to establish a foothold in the market. On October 6th, PNC actually opened a solution center in Burlington, Mass, not too far away at 2 Wayside Road. And that's going to be followed by other locations in Dedham, Linfield, and the Back Bay before the year's over. With that, I'm going to actually pass it over to Rachel Calcara at PNC to do further introductions with the PNC financial team.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andy, for that great introduction. So like Andy said, my name is Rachel Calcara, and I'm going to kick us off with some introductions today. So like Andy said, we have 3 groups at PNC. We have our retail group, our corporate and institutional banking group, and also our asset management group. So we have 2 of those teams represented today, our retail team and then also our wealth management team, which is a part of the greater asset management group. So I'm going to go through some introductions, starting with our retail team members. So our retail team really provides consumer banking through exceptional digital-led solutions and experiences to our customers. So they do this both in person through our branches, or as we like to call them at PNC, our solution centers, and also virtually. So we use leading technology so that we're able to meet our customers where they're most comfortable. So representing the retail team today, we have Jessica Bowers and Nathan Wadsworth. So Jessica brings a ton of leadership experience across a number of different industries, including banking, talent acquisition, consumer goods, and telecommunications. So she currently serves as our area manager for the retail national expansion into the greater Boston area. So in this role, she is really responsible for the growth and profitability, and also customer and employee experience for consumer banking. We also have a member of her team on the phone, Nathan Wadsworth. So Nate also has a ton of great experience in the banking industry with past experience at Bank of America, where he held a number of different roles, including branch manager and also business banking relationship manager. He comes from us most recently from his experience at JP Morgan Chase, where he assisted in the opening of a number of different branch locations in the Boston area. So he currently works as our solution center manager for the Back Bay location. And in this role, he is responsible for leading a team of consultants to engage clients and local businesses to deliver financial wellness resources and to make sure that we're helping to achieve our clients' goals. So we also have on the phone our wealth management team as well. And what our wealth management team does is we work with clients from both ultra high net worth and high net worth clients, which includes individuals and families, to provide holistic solutions to help them achieve their needs and goals. And we do that through a number of different solutions, including banking, investment management, trust and estate planning, and wealth planning, just to name a few. So on the phone today, we have Ridgway Powell, Gina Stewart, and also myself representing the wealth management team. So Ridge Powell is a chartered financial analyst, and he also has extensive experience of over 30 years with BNY Mellon in various investment roles. And he also served on a number of different committees, which worked with investment strategies, alternatives, and also private equity. He currently serves as a senior investment advisor with PNC Wealth Management, where he is responsible for helping clients with determining their investment goals, determining asset allocation to help achieve those goals, and also discuss current economic and market conditions with clients. We also have Gina Stewart on the phone, and Gina comes to us with a lot of different experience with commercial banks, including middle market lending, franchise finance, high tech, and loan workout. Her most recent experience comes from BNY Mellon's family office, where she served as a senior private banker, where she worked with over 80 multifamily and single family offices to be the main point of contact for credit and cash management solutions. So in this role, she worked with Forbes 400 families, business owners, as well as family foundations and endowments. In her current role, she serves as a senior banking advisor, where she works with clients to deliver insightful banking solutions, including complex lending and day-to-day cash management and banking activities. So finally, before I pass it off to Ridge, again, my name is Rachel Calcara. I've been with PNC for a little over 3 years now, and I've held roles within our wealth management group as a banking analyst, but most recently I worked on our corporate and institutional banking and asset management strategy team. And I currently serve as a relationship strategist here in the wealth management group in Boston. And I work with clients to help coordinate a team around our different solutions to make sure that we're helping our clients to achieve their goals and meet their needs. So with that, I am going to pass it over to Ridge to talk a little bit about the understanding the basics of investing.
Great, thanks, Rachel. And our agenda is here today to understand the basics of investing, 5 keys to successful retirement, and then we'll get into managing student debt and buying your first home, which Gina and Nate will cover. But so I'm going to cover kind of 3 topics: the basics of investing, keys to successful retirement. I'm also going to hit a little bit on current markets and a piece we call the good, the bad, and the ugly. So if we could turn to page 4. In terms of just starting with the basics of investing, there's kind of 3 topics that we felt were kind of critical to cover. There's many, obviously, and these probably aren't the most exciting, and we're really just kind of scratching the surface here in terms of thinking about the basics of investing. But the 3 topics that we think are really important are compounding, inflation, and asset allocation and diversification. And when you're starting out in investing and really trying to understand it and learn about it, compounding is a critical component. And all it is really the earnings on your earnings. And if you think about if you invest $100 and you earn 10% on that $100, at the end of the year you'll have an extra $10. If you keep that invested and it earns another 10%, you'll earn $11. So that compounding helps grow your earnings, and it's a real important element in terms of growing your wealth and planning for retirement and improving your investment returns. When a lot of people start working with us, we always ask them this one question: I'm going to give you $1 million today, right now, or I'll give you a penny that doubles every day for 30 days. Which will you take? You've got 10 seconds. Most of them, and I'm sure maybe many of you might say, I'll take the $1 million right up front. But really, if you compound that penny every day for 30 days, doubling it, you'll end up with 5.4 million. So that just shows the power of compounding and how your earnings on your earnings will grow. And we showed this graph here just showing what the difference between 4%, 6%, 8% compounding over time. And you can see the difference there. So it's a really important issue. And think about it even in just stocks, looking at various stocks. Apple in 2016 was trading at split adjusted price of about $23. 2 years later, in 2018, almost to the day, May 4th, it was doubled. It doubled in price. Had you sold out at that time, you would have missed out on a big run because it's currently trading at about $120, and that's a 5x return on your money rather than a 2x. So obviously there might be a reason you needed to sell Apple at that time, but keeping the money invested and letting it compound and grow is a really important concept of investing. Now, counter to that, if we could turn the page to, this just shows the long-term, this graph just shows the long-term compounding of the S&P 500, which is the top blue line, compared to the 10-year Treasury note since 1927. So obviously the blue line compounds, it compounded a much higher rate of return than Treasuries. And that just gets into the type of risk you're taking on to get that excess return in the marketplace. The gray line in the middle is a 50-50 allocation from the beginning. So just showing some different compounding and the effects over time of different asset classes. If we turn to page 7, the other component that we felt was important to talk about, I'm sorry, back one, I made mine wrong. That's all right, is inflation. So over time, prices of goods increase, that eats into your purchasing power. And one of the reasons you invest is to try and beat inflation rate. So it helps you in terms of deferring your spending, growing your assets to outgrow inflation, so you can keep up and maintain your lifestyle and purchasing power. And if you think about it, if your income is flat year over year and prices are going up, you're either going to have to dip into your savings or you're going to have to buy less. And so inflation really is just the increase of price of goods over time, and it can really eat into your ability, your purchasing power, and your returns on your investments. So it's really an important element to watch carefully. And it obviously, when getting into retirement, it's a key element because inflation, if you're on a fixed income, can be detrimental to, again, you're maintaining your lifestyle and your purchasing power. And I use this a lot with clients to just discuss what's going on as they plan over time. Because if we look and feel that inflation over 10 years is going to be 2%, and they want to spend 3% of their money, and it might put in a cushion there of an extra percentage point, that gets me to a 6% rate of return. I have to at least maintain that 6% rate of return for them to achieve their goals in terms of spending and keeping up with inflation. Now, obviously, that percentage point gives me a cushion, but it helps me define what asset allocation we might use for that client to maintain and meet their goals. It's just one tool, and it's a good way for them to understand that inflation is an important element. We need to have better returns than inflation. Obviously, inflation goes up over 4% and your return's only 2%, you're not going to maintain your purchasing power. You're going to have to dip into your savings or dip into principal of your investments, and that obviously can be detrimental to your returns down the road. Going back to that compounding effect, you're having to pull money out of the market at a time that you may not want to. So if we could turn to page 8, asset allocation is really kind of the third element that's really important. And there's two elements that are really critical when you're considering asset allocation. Obviously, it's time horizon, how long you want to invest the money. The longer you have, the greater time you have to make up for any downfall in the market or drop in the market. So that's a critical element in determining the asset allocation. And your risk tolerance, how much you can withstand any sort of drop in the market that's not going to force you to make a change at the wrong time. We talk to people a lot about, if the market drops 10%, are you going to really be nervous and not be able to sleep, or are you going to want to sell out of the market? Because that's the wrong thing to do. And we've seen it time and time again over history. So risk tolerance is something we spend a lot of time with clients and really making sure that we're putting them in the right asset class that's not going to cause them to make the wrong decision. And we've got this pyramid here that just shows basic return and risk profile of the three basic elements of asset allocation: cash, bonds, and stocks. And cash I look at as your short-term investments, what you'd use over the 1 to 2 year range. Bonds are more intermediate term, what you might do from 2 to 5 years, slightly higher return. And then stocks are for the long term. And basically setting a plan in an asset allocation that meets the time horizon, your risk tolerance, and setting it for for a time period that you're not going to make a lot of adjustments is really critical in terms of growing your wealth. I think it's also really important that you should make adjustments as your situation changes, as the markets change, but it shouldn't be getting in and out of the market frequently. That's only going to you have to make two right decisions: timing getting out of the market and getting back in, and that can be very, very difficult unless you're watching it on a daily basis, and I don't recommend that. So we put on the next page an asset allocation chart. This we call the periodic table. It shows year by year asset class returns. The top row is the best. The bottom row is the worst performing asset class. And really what you can see here is there's no real rhyme or reason to it. It's very random. And that's why we recommend diversifying in lots of asset classes to make sure that you achieve your goals and objectives. Making fine-tune adjustments between the asset classes is going to benefit as something outperforms another asset class. You might trim that asset class and buy another asset class that hasn't done as well to increase back to your targeted plan. It's again, it's really hard to determine what's always going to be outperforming each year, and I think having that diversification lowers the risk in the portfolio and benefits the long-term objectives. If we turn to kind of keys to successful retirement, this is really, I think this page is critical in terms of going through and thinking and establishing your plan. You have to assess your situation. You got to start now. It's never too late, but the earlier you start is the better off you will be. Really establish clear and defined obtainable goals. Look at market conditions. Try not to chase performance. The herd mentality. I mean, everyone piling into tech right now might not be the right time. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, but know what's going on in the market and try to avoid making too many changes in the short run, and stay the course. And I think you just got to keep on looking at it. And when you establish goals, they should be measurable, obtainable. I mean, I think a good goal is if you're looking to have your IRA in 5 years over 100,000, that's great. But if all of a sudden you find that you're way too short, or you're not saving other money outside of the IRA, that could be a problem. So you have to think about your spending needs, your debt, and other issues that are going on in your financial situation that might curtail any sort of plans and objectives. So that's why it's always good to update them, look at them, and reassess whether you're on target. I think if we'll just switch to market conditions. This is on page 16. So obviously there's been a lot of uncertainty what's going on. So we put this together monthly for our clients just to talk about what's happening in the markets or what's happening around the globe. And obviously there are many uncertain things going on right now regarding fiscal stimulus, the election, the vaccine, resurgence in cases. We've seen a big uptick in cases over in Europe. They're talking about another lockdown. So we kind of walk through these with clients, really to discuss what's happening. There are some good things in terms of the amount of stimulus we put in. The Fed has provided a lot of liquidity to the market. That's why we've seen some better returns here from basically April to now. The quality of income for certain investments is still high. When you look at dividend-paying stocks and the values aren't too low, we're seeing good e-commerce. Technology has definitely kind of shifted. We've accelerated trends that we thought would take 5 to 10 years to really take hold, but you've seen a big shift with Zoom, working from home. All of those trends we thought would occur, but they've been accelerated because of the pandemic. And there's some benefits, and certain sectors have done very well in this market. The bad, obviously, is we're still seeing slower growth. Haven't really returned to pre-pandemic levels. The market volatility is picking up. We do think that we could see some other stimulus, although there continues to be a back and forth. It probably doesn't happen before the election. Just the political environment is not good in terms of the polarization between the two parties and trying to get things done. A lot of companies are not giving earnings guidance. That's hard, obviously, to make decisions on where they're going. And just absolute valuation levels are pretty high. So that might make you be a little bit more cautious in the short term. But again, if you're just starting out, I think investing in stocks for the long term, I'm very bullish long term. There's a lot of great things happening: technology, health sciences, biotech, a lot of new innovations that are occurring in the marketplace that I think are going to cause long-term returns to be good in the stock market, especially given where interest rates are right now. And then finally, the ugly, obviously, there's a crisis of confidence just this with the social unrest and the labor markets. Last week you had initial unemployment claims over 800,000. Those are starting to trend up. Global deficits, very high debt levels in many, many countries are high. It makes it harder for them to do things on a fiscal level. So there are a lot of problems that we see going on that could cause you pause to invest in this market. But in the long run, I think these are short-term issues that we will get through. And long-term, there's still probably, when you look out 10 years, I think making an investment in the market is probably the right move, especially when you're just starting out. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it to Nate to talk about managing student debt.
Awesome. Thank you, Ridge. I appreciate your optimism in the market in the long run. Love that. And another thing that Ridge talked about was having SMART goals. And, definitely taking the time to set up a goal around your student debt is something very important for most of us. I know a lot of you out there probably graduated with some student debt. I know I did. And I put a lot of work, time, effort, energy into just sitting down and figuring out the best way of really taking care of that. And the next few slides are a few of the tips and tricks that we've used to really help not only myself, but all of my clients really achieve that goal of paying off those loans pretty quickly. So if we go to the first slide, the first place you want to start out is basically breaking down your budget, right? So when you talk about your debt, whether it's your housing, credit cards, student loans, you all want that to be less than 36% of your gross income. And it's important to keep in mind too, now that, you've graduated out in the real world, for me personally, I had to buy a car for my job. And along with that came unforeseen expenses that you have to budget for. So car insurance, gas, new tires recently, all these different expenses add up. So you definitely want to account for those. And one thing to keep in mind to help leave a little bit of that cushion is to have your housing only be about 28% of your income. So I put a little example there at the bottom. So let's just say you're making $60,000 a year. Your monthly housing payment should be right around the $1,400 amount, which frees up to bring you up to 36%, additional $400 to bring your total expenses to $1,800 a month. So that really, for me, that hits home for thinking about how do I do that? How do I get those expenses down? How do I make sure I'm not spending too much on housing, especially in Boston, which prices can be pretty high up there. So on the next page, I have some tips and tricks that we have. So the first one is for those student loans, for those credit cards, you always want to pay the highest interest rate first, and the ones with the highest balances first, right? Because if you're paying a lot of interest and you have a higher balance, you're accumulating more interest on those higher balances. It's pretty straightforward. And it's just a way to kind of cut down on a lot of those expenses in your life just by tackling those larger amounts first. And then the second one that I really like to point out is, I think with the revolution of just all of the tech out there, do we all need like 4 different streaming services? For me, like I looked at my phone at one point and I had a Pandora app, Spotify app, and Amazon Music. So I'm paying for Prime, which includes Amazon Music. So why am I paying additionally for Spotify and Pandora on top of that? And then not only that, but if you buy a car, you might have Sirius XM radio that they try to tack on additional expense every month for you too. So just taking that step back, whether you use Excel, you sit down with a pen and paper, really figuring out what goes in and out of your account. Whether that's done, something that you have automated. I know some banks out there have tools that, keep track of that for you. You can actually see what goes in and out of your account, and it pops up on a budget for you in your online banking. But I definitely recommend spending the time to do that. And then some other things to keep in mind is looking into your benefits at work, right? So I know there's certain nursing programs, armed forces, and teachers where the longer you work for those departments, whether it's government or some private companies do this as well, you might be eligible for loan forgiveness. So this is something that just from your tenure in your job and being able to, really grow in your career within your industry, that benefit might be there for you. So that's something that a lot of people don't necessarily know is there. So I recommend definitely taking a look into that. On the next page, I have some repayment terms that I've spelled out when it comes to federal student loans. This is just the most common type of loan that most of us get, whether it's subsidized, unsubsidized, federal student loans. The standard repayment is just a fixed payment, at least $50 a month, up to 10 years. Based off of the amount that you took out, that payment might be a little bit high. So there's a few ways to get around that and help you out when it comes to managing those balances and making everything fit into that budget we were just talking about. So one of them is that extended repayment plan. So for up to 25 years, the federal loans have an option. You have to click a few buttons to apply for it, but you can extend that 10 years to an either 15 or 25 repayment term when it comes to the length that you could, be able to manage those expenses a little bit better for you on a monthly basis. Same thing with the graduated repayment plan. The federal government understands that starting out, you might make a little bit less of a salary compared to where you're going to be in 10 years. So the graduated repayment plan allows you to have a smaller, manageable, bite-sized piece of payment every month, and it will grow with time as you get a handle on your budgeting and expenses. And then the last one is income-based repayment plan. So I know the federal loans provide this, but also some private loans do as well, where it takes into account how much you're currently making. We want to make sure that you have a livable wage and can afford that $1,400 a month when it comes to your housing, and structure your finances in a way that makes sense for you. So there are income-based repayment options as well. And all of these tie into a big question that we have when it comes to student loans in general is refinancing, whether I should do it or not, right? So let's just say you have $30,000 in student loan. You have a higher interest rate of 6.8 on a 10-year. Even if you bring that down to 4.5, as you can see in orange, it's $4,100 or $119 over 10 years. Like, that's a significant amount when it comes to your overall payments. Like, what can you do with that money? That's vacations, that's, some of those other expenses you have built up, new tires for your vehicle, stuff like that. But one thing you want to bring into consideration with your federal student loans, and this is something I really want to pretty clear on, is if you refinance them from federal to private, you do walk away from some pretty important benefits. Whether it's that income-driven repayment plan we were just talking about, those loan forgiveness, if you end up having to have a life event that sets you back a little bit, some default resolution problems, and some flexibility that those federal loans do offer. So those are a few considerations if you're going through that process to consider before jumping in. And if you do decide to take that jump, make sure you shop around, because some lenders do have some requirements. Some have great benefits. I know some banks have maybe a 50-point basis reduction off of like the actual rate of your loan and the interest you're accumulating if you set up like an automatic payment with them. But on the flip side, some banks have income and balance requirements for their accounts. Like let's just say a random bank you decide to refinance with, they come back at you saying, we'll do it, but you have to have a checking account with us with a minimum balance of $3,000 every month in order to maintain these benefits and get all your loans paid on time. So definitely make sure you take a look into those. And also what terms you want. So when it comes to your interest rate, whether you want a fixed interest rate or variable is very important as well. So fixed is great if you're making payments over an extended period of time. When we're talking about your 25, 15 year repayment terms, it's a flat, usually smaller payment. You can take bite-sized pieces month after month and just know consistently you're going to have that. But given market conditions, if you go with a variable rate, your rate might go up and down. You might have to pay a little bit more one month or, from time to time. And something to consider with that is if you're the type of person that, let's just say you have a smaller student loan left and you're thinking about refinancing it to maybe a little bit longer term to cut down on some of the size of the payments that you actually have to make. If you go with a variable rate, it's best to do it in a circumstance where you're going to make a larger payment. You're someone who's going to pay way more than minimum. That way you're really cutting down on that principal, and that way you're eliminating that balance a lot quicker. So that's definitely a consideration to bring into whether it's fixed or variable. But in all cases, definitely make sure before you make that jump to shop around and then obviously look into some of the benefits you might be walking away from. So all of that ties into really just being smart with your student debt and, making a way that is best for you, to sit down by case basis. Everyone's different. Build that budget, get an understanding of your income and expenses every month, and really craft a plan or find someone to help you craft that plan that makes the most sense from you. And that's all I've got. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Gina, who's going to talk about buying our first home.
Hello, everyone. I think I have one of the better topics or more exciting topics about buying your first home. I think when you're considering purchasing your first home, I think the first thing you want to ask yourself is, how long do I plan on living here in this town or city that you're living in now? And if you intend to live there for the next, say, 4 to 5 years, it might be a good idea to purchase something at this point in time. So once you've decided you're ready to purchase a home and you've identified the town or the city you want to live in, I highly encourage you to educate yourself about the city or town you're looking to purchase in. And educating yourself, I mean, go out and visit as many houses as you can with, go to various open houses and look in different price ranges. And so you get a sense of how far your money goes. And will the price range you're looking in meet all the requirements you're looking for in a home? So that'll help you determine, should I do it right now? Is now the right time? Or maybe I should wait a little longer, save up a little more money, and then, then look again when you have a little more saved. I think, Rachel, could you? So after you've identified the community you may want to purchase in, I think it's also important to do a little homework in understanding mortgage terminology. I think it's important you understand the difference between an adjustable rate mortgage and a fixed rate mortgage. Those different options come into play, especially if you're buying your first home. Maybe you see yourself living there for the next, say, 3 to 5 years, and then you think at some point your life may change. You may decide to get married. You may have children, and you may need a larger home or want to move to a different community. That's when looking at an adjustable rate mortgage versus a fixed rate mortgage is a good idea, because an adjustable rate mortgage is the timeline is going to match the time you're living at that property. So, and it's typically going to be a lower rate than your fixed rate mortgage. So I would say a fixed rate mortgage is best when you are looking to stay in that home for a long period of time, or if there's extremely low interest rates, right, just like right now, and you know you're not going to go, or the rate differential isn't that much different. So another key point I think I want to make while we're talking about rates is that there's two things that are going to affect your rate when you apply for a mortgage. It's going to be the loan to value, or the value of the home, and how much you're putting down for a down payment, and also your FICO score. So please, I can't stress enough about protecting your credit and making sure that you pay your bills on time, and your student loans, or whatever it is, whatever your debt obligations are, and also protect them from any type of fraud or cyber, instance or whatever. So just be really careful about that. So then the next thing I would do is start to prepare all your financial documents. And I would suggest putting, making sure they're all digital. Create a folder for your tax returns, your W-2, your bank statements, copies of your pay stubs, and have it all in digital form. So when you go to look for a pre-approval for a mortgage, which I highly suggest, so you can get a really good sense of how much you'll be able to borrow, everything will be very easy, and it'll be a much smoother process, and it will expedite the process as well. Nowadays, you'll find that many institutions that are providing mortgages are using or have an electronic process where you upload the documents and you fill out the application all online, and everything's done digitally. So you'll be in good shape if you get all that kind of set up beforehand. So Rachel, I'm going to hit the next slide. So just to give you a little insight on kind of what goes on behind the scenes with the underwriting, when the underwriters are looking at your loan package, they're looking at the value of the property and also your income. And in the two ratios that really matter most are the house expense ratio, which is driven by how much you're going to be putting down, and then the total obligation ratio, which is going to be driven by your income. It's important to keep in mind that if you do not put down 20% or more, you could be subject to PMI, which is private mortgage insurance, which could add to your additional expenses when looking at the total obligation ratio. And Rachel, I think we'll move on to the next. Here's a list of all the closing costs that you could expect. Maybe not everything, but these are a good list to keep in mind. And it will typically cost between 3 to 8% of your purchase price. And lastly, right here's a list of all the things, or I should say all the costs associated with your mortgage, and also which include your down payment as well. And I will end it there and pass it to Rachel so we can get on to the questions, which we have quite a few of.
Yeah, thanks so much, Gina. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but we are going to move into questions. So we did get quite a few in beforehand that we want to make sure that we're answering. But if you have any questions that didn't get answered in this time, or you're curious about something we talked about and you'd like to discuss more, we will make sure that our contact information is made available. So you'll have all of our emails. And if you are not sure who the right person to reach out is, pick anyone and we'll get you to the right person. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get into some Q&A. So first question we have is, can you walk us through your different roles and how you interact with the clients? So I'm going to kick that over to Jess to start us off.
Hi, everyone. So first of all, thank you so much for having us this evening. It's exciting to be here. So my title, as you saw earlier, was area manager. Essentially, I'm the regional manager here for PNC. I manage the consumer banking business. So all of our solution centers, which probably the term branches is familiar to you, but what we're opening is solution centers. I'm ultimately responsible for, as Rachel had mentioned earlier, the profitability, the customer experiences, like anything involving the retail side of our business, I'm responsible for. In terms of how do I engage with clients, it's absolutely the best part of my job is engaging with our employees and our clients. The most exciting thing about bringing PNC to the market, honestly, it's been a privilege. I get to build a best-in-class team here that's going to provide those exceptional client experiences. So just to put that into context, I've hired 22 people already this year, actively recruiting for all of our business lines. Probably have interviewed over 200 people, and the talent here in Boston, as we all know, is absolutely incredible. And I take a lot of pride in knowing that every single person that we onboard is going to take ownership of creating those amazing client experiences. When I'm in my centers, I'm constantly engaging with my team. I'm shoulder to shoulder. I'm observing conversations as people talk to customers, and all with the intention of just creating an exceptional experience for everyone that we work with. So it's a very exciting time to be here at PNC. And that's a little bit of what I do, but if you'd like to learn more about what I do, feel free to reach out to me anytime.
Nate, do you want to go ahead and go next?
Yeah, so to piggyback off what Jess was saying, I'm one of the 22 people that she's brought into PNC in the Boston market when it comes to our retail presence. And I'm the Solution Center Manager for Back Bay. And that entails just really being active in the neighborhood and being an essential part of the community through delivering financial wellness presentations just like this, right? So, member of local boards and community groups like the Back Bay Association, Boston Chamber of Commerce, and really engaging with local business owners and clients to really understand what their financial goals are and how we can best work with them with the tools that we have at PNC to help achieve those goals. And part of the exciting, aspect of coming into the market at this time is we have that best-in-class technology where we can meet virtually or in person. So my center doesn't open for a couple months, but I've already met with people virtually over Microsoft Teams, and it's been a great experience. So we're definitely coming into the marketplace, and we engage in all different levels of banking to help you out with that. So that really sums up what we do.
Great. Thanks so much, Nate. Ridge, do you want to give a little bit of your day-to-day as well?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, I focus on investments, as you can guess, which means following the markets, following earnings, corporate earnings, Fed policy, government policy, any issues that might affect the markets. I work with prospects in terms of looking at what they're doing with their current manager, their current on their own, and really assessing their situation and trying to determine their goals and objectives, and walking them through spending, legacy goals, estate planning issues that they might have to really construct a sound plan so they can meet their goals and objectives. It means talking to them sometimes weekly when the markets get volatile, and at other times it's just checking in with them to see how they're doing, any sort of changes to their plans, and going through the their portfolios and reviewing performance with them either on a quarterly basis or annual basis, whatever they want. It's really up to them. We customize it to meet their needs. PNC, we have over 440 products, so there's a lot to follow in terms of knowing those solutions and describing them to the client. So there's a lot of work to do.
Awesome. Thanks, Ridge. And Gina?
Sure. So as a senior private banker in wealth management, I work alongside Ridge, and I take care of all the clients' banking and credit financing needs. It could be from a mortgage, a home equity line, to providing them with a line of credit that's secured by their investable assets that we manage. A lot of times in wealth management, clients use leverage more as a tool than as being needs based. So there's times when we have clients that would want to access money in their portfolio, and it may not be the opportune time to liquidate because it may cause some tax consequences for them. And Ridge doesn't think it's the opportune time. And in that case, we would put a line of credit in place so they can access liquidity for whatever needs they have at that point. And then when Ridge decides it's the time is right to possibly sell some securities to pay off the loan, we work together to do that for the client. So I view myself not only as the person that helps with all financing needs, but also a resource for any sort of financing needs, whether it's something I can take care of or say there's other colleagues at PNC that may be able to help. I'd like to think of myself as the advocate for the client for their personal finances. So.
Perfect. Thanks, Gina. And myself, I mentioned earlier, I serve as a relationship strategist on the wealth management team. So I work with both Ridge and Gina, and I really look at myself as helping coordinate the team. So in instances where a client needs a particular solution or has a concern in an area, making sure that we're bringing in the experts, which obviously is Gina on the banking side and Ridge on the investment side. We also work with what we call at PNC a wealth strategist, who is an expert in the kind of financial planning, holistic plan sense. His name is Jamie Kelly, and also making sure to bring him into the equation. But it's really having a basic understanding of kind of all the disciplines and knowing when you need to tap the right person to bring into the conversation to help clients meet their goals. So with that, you have met the team extensively at this point, so we'll go into some more questions. So for the next one, we have, what is the difference between wealth management and banking? So I'm going to pass that, I think, to Gina, if you want to take that.
Sure. I like to think of wealth management as investment advisory services that bring together multiple disciplines, such as banking, estate planning, maybe some wealth strategists coming in. So everyone working together and using their discipline to bring together the best solution for an individual client. So banking I view as just one of the legs of the stools of the wealth management stool. And I don't know if it's really a difference, but I would say banking is part of wealth management.
So next, does anybody have anything to add? Good.
I would just add to that, like banking, it's just that your basic financial products, right? So it's everything that everyone that is attending needs to manage their day-to-day life. That's your checking account, your savings account, your credit cards. If you have a mortgage or you need any sort of a personal loan or car loan, those are sort of the foundational products that you will get from any bank, and every single one of us needs those.
And Rachel, I just add, we're with wealth management, we're also working with advisors, CPAs, attorneys, to help those clients, we need to understand what they're doing from their estate plan, what their tax situation is. All that's going to affect the investments that we do, the banking that we do, the borrowing, lending that they want to take on, because taxes matter in these situations, and it helps with not only banking but also wealth management and the investments that we're putting in place for these clients.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all very intertwined. So going to move on to the next one. Thanks everyone again. So what is PNC doing to attract new customers in the Boston market? I think, Jess, that is a great question for you to take.
Yeah, fantastic. So I'll try to keep this somewhat brief because I know we don't have too much time here. We're doing a lot, as you can all probably imagine. It's tough bringing a brand into a new market during COVID, right? Our whole model, it's an innovative approach. It's based on outreach. From the retail side, we're very grassroots. We like to go out and shake hands, and we are kind of having to be on video or just really elbow tapping is all that's appropriate right now. So what we are able to do and what we have been doing is we're partnering with a lot of different local organizations. We have some sponsorships happening. A couple of my favorite ones that you might be interested in hearing about. We partnered with the Sports Hub, and we did a power play for pre-K. And every time there was a power play during a Bruins game, we gave a donation to one of our great partners. So they specialized in early childhood education. We did something during the pandemic where we had some local athletes recording themselves reading children's books. So we had David Richards from the Patriots. We had a couple of Bruins players. And if you are a parent like me with school-age children, you can see how that's pretty cool to be able to have your kids watch something like that from home. We're about to actually do a sponsorship with 3 of our new locations. So Chestnut Hill, Dedham, and Linfield. And we're sponsoring something called a Sweat Your Workout, Not Your Finances series. So we're doing PNC branded yoga mats. We're offering financial wellness in addition to physical wellness for that. So those are a few of the things we're doing. But outside of that, we try to market ourselves as a different type of bank as much as we can. We're bringing a fresh perspective to banking. It's not based on transactions. It's a reason we call them solution centers. So we can meet with our customers virtually. We offer financial wellness just like this to every local business. We can provide this for them. Our goal is to educate and strengthen our communities in that way. And we're coming into this market and all of our expansion markets with an exclusive product suite. So we might be offering better rates on some things, or even we call it a virtual wallet, because that's what it is. It is our checking product, but it comes with this host of tools that makes it so easy for our customers to manage our finances. So thinking back to the tips that you got from Nate and Gina on budgeting and managing debt and savings, it comes with a savings engine. It breaks down your spending into different categories so you can track things, and it makes those things that you saw in the presentation really, really simple. So hopefully that's a good holistic overview of what we're doing. Thank you.
Yeah, that was great. Next up, so I know, again, we have a lot of questions, so I apologize if we don't get to all of them. But how important is the use of technology in your industry? So Jess and Ridge, I think this works for both of you.
Yeah, Ridge, you want me to start there? Or?
Sure, yeah, great. Go ahead. Yep.
Okay. So I think, so technology is so important in every industry, right? I mean, we're here on a video conference with you guys. You can pick up your morning coffee without ever talking to someone. And this is how you do it from an app on your phone, right? So it's incredibly important. As consumers, our behaviors have changed. We want immediacy. We want personalization. There's huge companies here in the US and global that have created new customer expectations. So the Apples and the Googles and the Netflix. So as a bank, as a financial institution, as any organization, our goal is to adapt to that and give our clients what they want. And that's why things like video conferencing, being able to send our customers a link to open an account, to meet with them if they have underlying health conditions or just don't feel like traveling into a solution center. We can do that. And we were already on a journey to do those things before COVID, but obviously we've fast tracked that stuff. You know, if you think about when's the last time you went to a bank to transfer money or deposit a check or, you know, to get cash at a teller line, consumers don't operate like that now. So we try to provide an omni-channel experience where we can meet you by video, by phone, in person. We could come to you, even just your platform banker could come to you to open a checking account. And that's not anything that we've ever been capable of in this industry until now. And there's no other banks, even locally in Boston, that do that. So technology is extremely important to our industry because it helps us meet the needs of our customers. And, you know, we're going to continue to see rapid change and advancements in technology over the next few years. We've seen so many more change in the last 5 years than in the last 100. So just thinking about that, not being able to adapt to that is a failing strategy for any business or any industry. So we're working really hard to do that. I think we're doing a great job.
Yeah, and on our side for the investments, obviously just better tools, faster tools. It's made advisors more productive. You know, speed of information, the amount of data that's going through the financial system is massive, and all that's technological advances. Algorithm trading has been a big change, obviously brought on by technology. The use of AI is, you know, we're starting to see it's not perfected, but, you know, there are a lot of analysts and managers that are using that to go through earnings reports from companies and just picking up nuances in the change of language to make a determination of whether something's changed at the company that they need to be paying attention to, because reading those reports, it's hard to remember exactly what happened, but obviously the technology can look at both reports and determine some changes pretty quickly that a human might miss. So and it's just enabled some new strategies to be created. You know, not all of them are good. Look at a lot of the hedge funds, and some of those things aren't great, but technology definitely helped in that capacity in terms of expansion of products.
Awesome. Thank you both. So I think we probably have time for one or two more questions. So how much has the industry changed in the last 10 to 20 years, and in what ways? Ridge, Gina?
Yeah, sure. You have a half hour? I mean, this one, no, I'm kidding, but I'd say the biggest thing that, I've seen is obviously the move to passive. When I started, there was, very little in passive strategies, and that's just grown by leaps and bounds, which it's opening up investing to a lot more people. It's lower cost. I think that's all beneficial to the investor. Regulatory changes have been huge, obviously, since the great financial crisis. Some of that's been good. Some of it's been, I'd say, not good in the sense of capital formation, but that's a big change for us, and I think that will continue. But some of it is obviously good for consumers when you look at some of the issues that have gone on with certain banks. Back to the alternatives, that's been a huge change. The advancements in private equity, which has changed the IPO market. And when I started, companies coming public, that was how you got into these startups, and now you can't get into them that way. These companies are coming public as billion-dollar market cap companies. That's huge. We call them unicorns, and they're skipping over what we used to call small caps, which was an area where you'd get some good good returns and good growth, but they're skipping over the public markets and becoming large cap companies right away. Just change in Fed policy has been really different. I think you see a lot of central banks around the world that are pushing to negative interest rates. I never thought I'd see that. And we recently had negative oil prices. Those were all the negative oil prices were it's a technical issue due to storage and the lack of storage and lack of demand available. But for a time, one day, oil traded at negative $40 a barrel in the futures market, and that was something I never thought I'd see. So a lot of things going on, a lot of changes.
Yeah, I think I would just add, after 9/11, business changed quite a bit, and the emphasis placed on anti-money laundering and knowing your client has become huge. And banks are asking for far more information about clients. They want to know, who beneficiaries are now. They want to be able to trace back your funds all the way to the original source. So that has made our business definitely challenging at times. And I think now it's become so customary that it's not as big of a deal, but it's a huge focus of the banks.
So there's one more question I wanted to make sure that we hit on. I know we're just at about time, but I think this is a very good takeaway for everyone. And again, apologies if we didn't hit a question that you had submitted. But what specific resources do you recommend for us to continue learning about these topics beyond today? Ridge and Nate, would you like to take that?
Sure. Nate, I'll start if that's all right.
Yeah.
So Bloomberg.com I think is a great place, or Morningstar. There's both of those. You might have to pay for Morningstar to really get some information. Obviously, reading the Wall Street Journal, Financial Times. I really like the Financial Times because it gives you a global perspective, not just a U.S. perspective. I read Barron's, which comes out once a week on the weekends. The CFA Institute's another great source, and if you're interested in your CFP, they also have great information. There's plenty of stuff on the internet, but be careful what you read. Don't believe all of it. But I think those are probably some of the best sources of information that I use, at least.
And to Ridge's point, you have to be careful what sources you go after on the internet, and thinking locally. Boston Business Journal, the Globe, a lot of those articles and business sections really give you insight in what's going on day to day in your own backyard, and checking out other, like your own bank's website to see what information there might be on there as well. Like, for example, I know PNC has like a learning page where if you click on it, like for example, today they posted something on, 7 tips that financial advisors know that help them sleep better at night. So there's really interesting and very detailed information out there, even at just our own bank's website as well. But there's one thing you can't replace, and that's obviously like the personal relationship that you have with someone in your local network. So whether you're a member of a chamber or whether you just have that one banker in your family, definitely having someone to turn to is where I would start when it comes to reaching out to a resource. Is what's available to you. Popping into your local branch or solution center and really getting to know the team that's there, and finding that person who really has your goals front of mind and really genuinely interested in seeing you really prosper and see you have that great retirement and all those great vacations that you're saving for is definitely key. And really that starting point comes to you in reaching out to those financial professionals.
Thanks, Nate and Ridge. I'll actually just add one thing to that question as I was thinking about what I enjoy reading to make sure I'm staying up to date on current information. It's called The Morning Brew. It's a daily newsletter that comes out. It comes out at like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's a really fun way to learn about what's going on in the markets and in the U.S. in general. And I think they do a really nice job of keeping you informed in a really simple and kind of quick way if you don't have a lot of time to keep up with reading or parsing through a ton of articles. They usually pick the top things that happen that day. So with that being said, I think we're pretty much at time. I think Andy is going to pop back on for some closing comments. But again, thank you all for having us today. And if you have any questions, please reach out. Sorry, Andy, it's all you. Andy, I think you might still be on mute.
Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, and thanks, thanks, Gina, Ridge, Jessica, Nate. Really appreciate the time today. I thought the presentation was really informative. You also provided some really key insight into what's going on in the financial world, both at a macro level and also here local to the Boston community. So really appreciate the time. I just have a quick page I'm just going to leave everybody with so that you can see contact information in case anyone has any questions on that part. So again, I'm Andy Baylor. I'm part of the alumni group, and our current president is Nathan Lombardi. Feel free to email him or email myself. He's at lombardym@gmail.com. And then here's the PNC financial contact information. And like Rachel said, we'll make sure to share that with you all as well. So just thanks again. Really appreciate the time. Excited, to learn more from the team at PNC, and have a great week, everybody.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.